Hello, welcome to another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, Sal. How about yourself?
Just outstanding.
Who we got today?
We have a couple guests. One's returning and one's new. And we have Mr. Nance, Superintendent, West Washington High Schools, and we have Mr. Tankersley. This is one of the teachers at West Washington High School in the CTE section, Careers and Technical Education. But before we get into introductions, most importantly, and what our listeners apparently really like to hear, and maybe the primary reason they tune in, is the question of the day. Today's question,
putting us in the hot seat.
Since we have educators in the room, this is an easy one, should be, is who is your favorite teacher? Or think back and who is your favorite teacher and why?
All right, so you think that's a softball question for a couple of educators, but most people that go into education go for a reason, and it's probably because they were impacted by a bunch of good educators themselves. So, going back, I really did have to kind of think to myself, who do I put at the top of the list, because the list is pretty deep. But looking back, I have to say my chemistry teacher in high school, Mr. Christie, and usually it's because someone goes above and beyond what you would expect them to do. And in his case, number one, I went into chemistry thinking I really love science. And then I figured they bamboozled me. That really first semester of chemistry.
Math.
This is math class.
This is not science.
You didn't put me in a science class. This is a math class.
What are these fractions?
Yeah, but Mr. Christie was a great, very, very intelligent man. He was very entertaining. He grew up in the same hometown as Dick Vitale, had the same exact accent.
No.
So watching him and listening to him, he kind of captured your attention. A very interesting guy, because he came into being an educator after another career. So he had only been teaching a handful of years, but he had retired from another career. And
was he a warden of a prison before?
No,
just checking.
He owned a patent to a part that went into a Corvette. So, but he drove a little tiny Chevelle. So I don't know what that tells you. Yeah. So he every couple of weeks we'd have an exam like traditional high school, and what he would do was at the local pizza parlor every Sunday. He would have a 4-hour block, and students could come, and he would review all the material. You'd study amongst your peers. He would step in if you had questions, and he'd provide pizza.
Wow.
And so to me, number one, it helped me get through something that I kind of struggled with, which was that first semester of chemistry. But secondly, it was that he went beyond and did something with us outside of the classroom. And so, that was impactful to me. And growing up, about that time, I'd already realized this is what I want to do with my life, is to be a career educator. And, he was one of those people that influenced me in that direction, and also kind of was a model for, hey, it's not all about the curriculum. It's not all about what you do between the hours of, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. There's something more to it. Those people that are excellent for a reason, and it's usually because they don't just do the status quo. They do a little more. And for me, it was impactful. Got me an A in chemistry, which no way in the world I would have ever gotten there without those Sunday sessions.
I never liked you people that got A's in chemistry.
I got a C the second time I took organic chemistry.
And you still love pizza, right?
Yeah, and I still love pizza.
Yeah, that's a good story. And an A, that's pretty impressive.
Now, a close second was my fourth grade teacher, Miss Bitzigas. She was an excellent teacher, but she was also my first love.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, we all have the elementary teachers that we fell in love with.
Yeah.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yeah, so I told you before, I think any teacher willing to put up with me whenever I was in school.
You were one of those?
Yeah, I was rambunctious, kind of couldn't sit still. I was always banging on stuff. And,
I could see that.
Yeah, that's why
that was before they knew what. What was it? ADD was, right?
I had it. Yeah, I had it for sure. Still got it.
The treatment was just getting spanked.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's like put this kid in the corner. But no, I had some really good teachers. Being an athlete, I have to probably say that my PE teacher, more than just the sports aspect of it, he was also my track coach. Him and I had a really good relationship. We would actually run in the mornings before school, at a conversation pace. So I got to have a lot of long run conversations with him. Helped me through kind of like those adolescent, teenage years, and kind of talked about a bunch of stuff. Just was really like a personable guy. Kind of really got to know me and made that relationship, which made him more of a teacher to me. It was more of a mentor, somebody that I could go to with any of the problems that I had, which ultimately, I mean, he's one of my favorite people in the world. If I had an idol, it's Jim Lewis. I mean, that guy, he's probably the best badminton player I've ever seen in my life. And you could still run a 6-minute mile when he was like 55. So just one of those guys that you're like, man, when he walks in the room, like, he was the guy. Like, he was the guy to look, and ultimately the things I learned from him is, as an educator now for 11 years, I still do the same stuff. I mean, you can get a lot more out of these kids if you create that relationship where you're more than just, he's the teacher and I'm the student, and this is the relationship we have. Getting to know your kids, getting to know things that's going on with them. I learned that from those teachers that I had growing up that made an impact on me, and I hope to think I'm making that impact on other kids today. So
that's pretty cool. Well, Jeff and I will bring it down probably a little bit since we didn't go into academia.
True. That's I think most of academia was glad to see us go. So that's
don't come back.
I didn't have a chance. I didn't look at this question ahead of time. So I'm going cold turkey here, and kind of the same thing. There could be quite a list. I think one of the things that list would have in common is that the harder the teacher, I didn't like him at the time, but looking back, now it's like, hey, that was probably one of my better teachers. But if I had to narrow it down to one, I'm going to jump away from high school, go to college, and pick one of my college professors. And it was Dr. Joe Ewell. And he was an ag econ professor I had at Purdue. He was also the coach of our marketing team. So, I participated on the marketing team and stuff. Just quality guy in terms of, talking to you about life skills and stuff like that, but also, taught you a lot of stuff both in the classroom and out. So that was always pretty cool.
That's pretty neat. Well, I did put on there favorite or most memorable, and my most memorable one was Mr. Sturbaum, and he was in 6th grade, and he would read Stephen King books to us.
Oh, wow.
And there was a Stephen King book called Night Shift.
Ooh.
And it was terrifying. And so he would, if we were really good, that's how he got us to behave, is he would read these Stephen King books to us, and he was reading Night Shift and had short stories in it. And of course we'd be like, and he'd stop, and then the next time we'd have to start again the next day or something. Anyway, there was a student in the class that had bad dreams, and then found out that he was reading Stephen King books to a bunch of 6th graders, and that shot that down.
Ruined it for everybody.
But it was probably just as well.
That was his way of getting even. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be little, goof offs here. I'll make you go home and have bad dreams.
Yeah. You keep me up at night. Now I'm going to keep you up at night.
That's right.
That's funny.
Well, Keith, last time we had you in, we were talking about the commercial driver's license program.
Yeah.
And here we are, Premier Ag, and we're having educators on the podcast. What's the connection? Well, one of the connections is that this is where our future employees come from, is from the students that learn how to be responsible and learn, in this case, careers, or get a jump start. So that CDL program was part of the Careers and Technical Education, CTE. So what is CTE programs, and what are involved in those?
So career technical education, obviously across the nation is a high priority for schools. In Indiana, there's certainly a push for that through legislation, through funding, but also through workforce development. Speaking to community members, industry leaders, business owners, what are the needs? When I became superintendent, I took part in the Regional Opportunity Initiative in the Hoosier Uplands area, which includes 7 counties. And, part of that study was what were the demands and the needs for employers? What were the industries that are in most need and were also create the most fruitful opportunities for young people as well. And so, a lot of that is designed around some bigger industry. One of those was biomedical, with Cook Medical being in our region, manufacturing, of course, and then agriculture and defense because of Crane, because it does include Lawrence County and Monroe County as well in our area. So, we took that information and helped to steer our CTE pathways, because you can't do everything, especially at a school our size. But then we also talked to our own local industry leaders and what their needs were. So there are a lot of businesses within our own county of Washington County. West Washington is, it's a clever name. We're on the western third
Who thought of that?
of the county. And ideally for us as stewards of our communities, we want to bring we don't want to take our best and brightest and ship them off to somewhere else. We really want to find ways for them to keep their roots within our community and help our community grow economically and support the industries we have, and potentially even add new industries. So through that conversation, we then again went back to the drawing board and said, well, what programs do we want to focus on? At the time, we had a handful of career technical education programs. We wanted to expand on them. Our school board approved a huge renovation to an area of our school. We are unable, just based off of location, to participate in like a career center. There are a lot of career centers throughout the state where multiple schools send their students, like Prosser in Floyd County.
Travel would have been
it would have been a limiting factor for our students. And what we didn't want to do is limit their possibilities. So we wanted to house them all on campus. And so we put a concerted effort into that. So we do have a robust CTE program that has grown since that time with the renovation. But we have manufacturing and engineering and construction, all those courses Dennis teaches. And so he'll be able to hit on that, some of the community partnerships we have made and some of the things that we have done to make opportunities for our students or create opportunities for our students. We have the CDL-A program. We have a diesel services program, and that's basically just demand in the industry overall. I mean, it's demand in our community, but it's a demand everywhere in North America. So, it's a way to get students a step ahead. You don't have to go, your first job necessarily be in retail or in the service industry or something. And then we have health careers, which, every county has a hospital. All those people are good paying jobs, great opportunities there. So we have a CNA program, which is a certified nurse's assistant, and a CMA program, which is a certified medical assistant. Both of those you can earn your industry certification while in high school. And of course, we have a robust ag program. Yep. Being where we are, agriculture is very important. We have a stellar FFA chapter, and those kids are doing amazing things. Now, what we did find is a lot of those kids do come home because they may go to Purdue or they may go to Vincennes for an associate's degree, and they have deep roots in our community because they are actually rooted in the agriculture of their families and generations of farming. So those kids we typically we're not losing to other places. They were coming back home and working within the agriculture industry. And then we also have digital communications, which is graphic design, photo editing, video editing, which is very popular and in demand just because of the time we live in. So we feel like we have a real well-rounded selection of opportunities for our students. And so much so that our participation, 90% of our students are getting a technical honors diploma alongside, a lot of times, their academic honors diplomas. And really what allows us to do that is we're not limited by travel. So they can take every one of their academic courses that are required and still have 3 periods essentially open to take whatever exploratory things they want to do in career technical education. But additionally, as you move on and proceed, work their way into like apprenticeships, work-based learning opportunities. It just allows us a lot of flexibility, the investment we made to have it in-house.
So technical honors, and so Dennis, I want you to kind of give us your career path, and Mr. Nance is a returning guest, so we didn't have to go into his history a little bit, but we kind of tell us your
How
career,
I got here.
how you got here today, and then what you do in that career in technical education, because that's really hands on and kind of start to finish, and just go ahead and tell us.
So my name's Dennis Tankersley. I graduated from Pekin Eastern High School, another one of our county schools, East Washington.
Yeah,
which is so funny. Salem's not North Washington, right? It should be. Yeah, Central Washington. So went to Eastern. Graduated in 2001. Went to USI in Evansville for a little bit. Was going to actually go into teaching, and I did that for a year. And then, since I didn't have all those great study skills whenever I was in high school, realized they weren't teaching that in college. You should have just already had those skills. So I had to, I went to that school of hard knocks there for a little bit, and had to pay them for the credits that I didn't earn and all that good stuff. But I started working construction outside of that, and while I was working construction, I was still going to night school at IUS in New Albany. I was actually going for pre-chiropractics. I had to have 90 credit hours to transfer to a chiropractic college. I got to like 64.
In wrestling, as you broke people up, you could put them back together. Is that
break them and mend them all in the same time? Yeah, one-stop shop. But then, I did about 60 credit hours of that, and then decided, I'd been working construction that whole time. Just decided that wasn't something I wanted to pursue, and kind of just fell into some pretty decent hourly rate jobs in construction. I've been doing a lot of different stuff, but like treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants, poured a bunch of concrete, worked really hard, and kind of gained the respect of some of the companies that I worked with, and they gave me a little bit more responsibilities. So I worked that for about 11 years, and then kind of wanted to take a step further from that. So I started doing architectural computer-aided drafting. So I got into like blueprints, reading blueprints, drawing blueprints. So I went to school for that at the Sullivan College of Technology and Design. It was a 2-year program. I did it in 18 months because I'd already had a lot of credits accumulated. But I'd worked construction the whole time doing this. I'd go to night school for all of that. So I had a lot of really good people in construction. I was kind of set up really to start running some crews and doing those types of things. After I graduated, I actually took a job with C&M Conveyor in Mitchell, drawing building schematics like sales layout drawings and things like that. Nothing against them. I just was in a cubicle, an 8x8 cubicle, no window, and just like a caged animal scratching at the cubicle door, like, I need sunlight, from working outside for so long. But I did that for like a year and a half, and really kind of honed in on those skills. And it was kind of funny how I actually got hired in. So I'm employed through Lost River Career Co-op. They're out of Paoli. So Kevin Knies hired me, but the year before, like after I graduated from Sullivan College, I had emailed him like, hey, do you have anything in the building trades or anything like that? And I went and interviewed with him, and I thought I crushed the interview. I was like, oh, they're definitely hiring me. And, he called me back, and he was like, hey, it's just not a right fit right now. And this was actually for the job at Springs Valley.
Oh.
And I was kind of crushed. I was like, why didn't you like me? Like, I feel like this was like, this is my thing. And, it worked out. I got another year of kind of honing in, in that business side of it, being a sales administrator, talking to people on a daily basis. But then it was funny because almost a year to the date, I remember going to McDonald's, and I was like, man, I'm going to email him when I get back just to see if there's something coming up this next school year. And I had an email from him asking me to come and interview for the West Washington job, and Karen York was there at the time too, and they pretty much hired me on the spot. And it was funny, the negotiating of it and everything. I didn't go to school to be a teacher. I didn't go through all the educational classes and things like that. So how to teach a class was something that I didn't know. but I have coached wrestling for 20 years. This is my 20th year coaching wrestling. So I've
You knew how to yell at kids.
I knew how to yell at kids. I knew how to keep them in line. That's right. Yeah. I'm not a very big guy, so I could talk really strong and mean. So I honed in on those skills, and maybe they saw that in me. But yeah, it was a blessing for sure, to be able to do that and to take that job. And this was pre-construction phase of all the new stuff that we did. So we had the old gym floor in the shop there and everything, which our facilities out there were amazing then too. We had at the time, I think it was 4,500 square foot shop, and then a blueprint lab kind of next to it was 1,000 square feet. And like Mr. Nance said, after we did that renovation, ended up opening up some space, and it was 6,500 square foot, and it was all well lit and nice, and it looked like industry. It really did, because I was teaching manufacturing at the time, and construction classes, or manufacturing and engineering at the time. And so we did that for 4, maybe 5 years, 6 years. And then we saw a need for the construction things that, companies around, Mac Construction, Temple and Temple Construction, were really wanting to come to these places and pick our kids, and see who had some skills. So, my past in construction, it just was a better fit, I think, than the manufacturing at the time, and mainly because we were sending more kids to construction companies than we were sending to manufacturing. So understanding that, we kind of went away from the manufacturing for a little bit. Now we're in, I teach 3 construction classes and 3 engineering classes. And we do a lot of cool projects. We just built a putting green for the golf team. Did some dirt work, partnered up with Temple and Temple. So I think having these industry partners come in and help out, it not only kind of reiterates the things that I'm saying, but these people are actually doing it for a living, and I think it holds more weight with the kids. So those industry contacts that I brought with me are super helpful in seeing that. And it's funny because I just had the conversation with the kids this week, and they're like, well, don't you think you make more money doing construction? I'm like, well, if money's your motivation, then yeah, you could probably go find some more money somewhere. But, I really am living my dream right now. I wake up every day, my kids, my family, everybody goes the exact same place I go. My wife's a first grade teacher, sorry. And we all just go to the same place every day. And, being on the same schedule and everything, this is, I don't want to do anything else right now. This is where I need to be. So getting to talk with these kids and create those relationships. That's what I took from those teachers that were great for me, that we built that rapport. I'm doing that same thing, and I can get a lot more out of them with that respect that I've earned from them. And they're giving that respect right back.
That's good.
What's some of the feedback that you're getting from these companies that come in and they maybe they've been coming there for a while? Or, what are they seeing in your students, and are they seeing that progression of, hey, where we started a few years ago and where they're at today, and what are they seeing in those kids that are coming through the program? And
yeah, I can hit on some of the surface level stuff, and then Dennis can probably expand on it. But, we've had 2 very fruitful side-by-side partnerships over the last couple of years, one with Mac Construction and one with Temple and Temple. And we have others, but these were really the most in-depth. And one of them, and not to disparage any other youth or any other schools, but they said, we've targeted West Washington because we know what you are producing, and we know the values of the school and of the community. And what we really want, we would love the opportunity to get some of these kids trained up, but we're also looking for these soft skills, just grounded in hard work, grounded in understanding, that your role is integral, and that you can't let others down, and holding students accountable across the board, whether that's through athletic programs, extracurricular programs, within the classroom, and those things that you embed in them throughout, and that are kind of entrenched in our own community, that in addition to the training we're doing is producing for them what they see as an ideal candidate to pull right into the workforce. And for us, having the programming, all those other things were already kind of embedded within our, like I said, within the community itself. But what we understood was if we prepped them well enough, they don't have to go right into entry level work. You know, they don't have to have the grunt job right off the bat and toil in that and prove themselves. That if we can produce for them an opportunity to get some industry certification and some experience, and then even some of these employers showing up on our campus and working side by side, that's a real interview.
Yeah.
You know, I always say you can sit down with someone for an hour and you can think you know a little bit about them. But if you work side by side with them, you're going to figure things out much more quickly. And for me, that is the huge opportunity that we're seeing, and that's how we're drawing the connections. Now, Dennis has had some real personal relationships with some of these folks that are coming to recruit our kids, and they've probably given him some even more information. But from my point of view, it's all about opportunity, taking the skill sets and like building them up on what the foundation is already there, and then handing them off to someone, and them trusting that we're producing something of quality, and us trusting that, hey, they're going to a good business and what they're doing could change their life generationally. If you know, we also have kids that come from not much, and you know, if you can get them into beyond an entry level job at 18,
that's a good jump start.
Change the trajectory of their lives.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of building upon that with these relationships with these companies that we've had and that we're still growing. My biggest thing was I remember those first few weeks in construction. You know, I mean, I was a kid going there. You know, I remember I basically bugged a company to hire me. I went there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They hired me on Friday. I was like, look, I'm just going to keep doing this until you put me on the payroll. Like, I'm going to show up every day. It was like 10 minutes from my house. They were building the East Washington School. They had a big renovation back then. And, you know, I just bugged them till they hired me. And I was like, I want to do this and I want to learn. But whenever I got in there, it was just kind of like, you know, it was on me to learn it as I was there. You know, you've got these guys that have been doing it for 20, 30 years, and they really weren't into teaching me, the new kid, on how to do something. It was more like, you know, go grab that and do it now.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll figure it out. So the relationships that we've had with our partners, you know, I think that was the conversation was, look, we're going to send them to you with where they're not completely green. They've seen at least some of this stuff. We want to trust that whenever we hand them over to you, you're going to mentor them so they can last. We don't want them to come and have a bad experience to where, you know, this isn't something that I want to do. Well, you can teach them everything that you want to teach them. Let me show them that, hey, we're going to have to show up every single day. We're going to have to, you know, be a good, decent person, be honest about things. You know, and then give them a few skill sets that they can actually use. So, I mean, we probably poured over 200 yards of concrete at the school. We've done a lot of different things. We've dug ditches, set poles in concrete. We've done a lot of things. And I think those opportunities, like Keith mentioned, they're getting that hands-on experience that they wouldn't really get in a classroom setting, me talking about it and stuff, and giving them the opportunity to actually fail, because that's how I feel like we learn a lot is, you know, if I just sat there and coach you all the way through it and you never get a mistake happen and you don't have to fix something that messes up. Well, I've been in construction a long time and you mess up a lot of stuff. Like sometimes you got to break some stuff to fix some stuff.
Yeah, you got to break it back down.
Yeah. So just that process of doing that, I think the kids are, their kids are really in tuned, I think, to that. They enjoy coming to class every day. You know, we were working outside all through the fall on that green. We got people working, you know, running dozers, running excavators, mini rollers.
Sal's going to want to go back to school.
Yeah, it was fun. You know, I've got a blocked class there, first and second period, with some kids, and some new kids come in, some kids stay for the whole 2 periods, and you know, they're getting, you know, 15, 20 minutes a day, which doesn't sound like a lot, but 20 minutes on a piece of equipment and then rotate into another one. You know, they were loving it.
Yeah.
You know, didn't have people tardy for class. They were showing up on time, and they were eager to do it. So
they had an excavator. I had an excavator there on the farm, and they were bringing the classes over for that. And I'm like, how come they didn't have these classes when I went here?
Absolutely.
Right?
yeah.
But we got a success story. Kai Struther, and he's come one of the first ones out of the CDL program, I think, and he's driven for us for a couple summers, and hopefully come back and hopefully someday be a full-time employee. So we're looking, hopefully that all works out. But certainly, I think, Keith, you had said the last time you was on is that one of the things that you wanted to make sure you accomplished in the CTE programs was giving students a leg up, and I think you just said now was that give them where they're not starting off at an entry level job. And I think as employers, I mean, if we can have, and we're going to high school job fairs now, and Jeff annually goes to the college career fairs and represents Premier Ag with a couple of others here from Premier Ag. And we're pretty good about colleges and career fairs, but we're learning now that we've got to go for the rest of our company. We've got to make sure that we're at the high school career fairs too. And from a business partnership standpoint, what do you need from businesses to help partner with some of these programs?
So I think one of the things that it probably has changed over time is looking more into actual paid internships. Now you don't have to pay them a giant wage, but it is kind of, it also gives them that understanding of, I show up and I work, and I also see this benefit of it. And then also the patience when you're dealing with young people. We're going to try to reinforce the things that we think that the company needs. But for that company to openly communicate with us and partner with us so that we can best, again, hand over what we consider to be a high functioning, a high caliber employee, a person of high character, what things are important to you as a company. And so typically it starts off with a pretty lengthy meeting between ourselves and the business. Right now, we got a local business, Temple and Temple, that's really investing a lot into us, but we're very upfront and saying we don't want this to be, because I think a lot of times over the course of time, sometimes industry sees, hey, we want to partner as, they want something from us.
Yeah.
We're not looking for just that. Of course, it needs to be a partnership, but we think that partnership needs to go both ways. And so we have to hold up our end of the bargain too. And so it needs to be very clear up front. What are your expectations? What is it that what are our limiting factors as a school? And so moving forward, the state of Indiana has put in place internship programs are going to be highly important and required for most students. And that's going to mean us working hard to arrange those. And so, if you're setting an industry or you have a business and you've thought about reaching out to your local school, don't hesitate. Don't put it off any further. Reach out, sit down and have face-to-face meetings, have the difficult conversation. Don't think you're going to offend someone to say, well, but my objective is they're going to show up on time. They're going to be respectful. They're going to do this and they're going to do these things. And we want to be able to say with confidence, that is what we're sending you. So just having the dialogue of what are your expectations? We don't want to fail your expectations, but we also want you to understand what are our limiting factors. Because, the times of day, it's got to be difficult, I would think, for a company to say, okay, I can send this kid to you for 2.5 hours per day. And they may show up at 11.
Yeah.
Because that's the way the schedule fits. So that kind of flexibility from the partner is important. But, the non-negotiables, we got to know up front, because our goal is to make it successful on day one, not have to come back and have let someone down. They are kids still. And so sometimes they're going to do some kid things, but an understanding of what happens what support do you need when the person when the kid isn't holding up their end of the bargain. We want to support you through that. We're used to dealing with these kids. A lot of these kids we've known since kindergarten, so we know all the little intricacies of them. So like a true partnership, and it does take effort, but I think the investment that a couple of these partnerships that we've made, they are seeing the bearing of fruit from that labor. It's not going to be, we don't want a partnership where someone says, yeah, we want to partner with you, and all they want us to do is send them kids. that's not a partnership. That's just us pushing our kids, into a funnel and saying, here you go.
And we also don't want a partnership where we're just asking for money. Like it's like, all we need is money from you. That's not really, when we started some of these projects with Temple and Temple, they were willing to send an operator out with the piece of equipment. And the kids can hear it from me, but they see me every single day. But whenever they see somebody who's like, this is their profession, that's what they're doing, it just matters more. And, having a company that's willing to kind of say, okay, let's brainstorm and figure out what the best way to make this partnership work both ways.
When the operator says check the fluids, that's a little different than you saying, okay, here's your checklist.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I've got a 2-part question for you. And I think I know the answer to the first one, but I want you guys to tell the story of the kids that have gone through this program, this technical honors program. When you compare those kids to maybe another kid that's just on a scholastic track, he's whatever. Can you see a difference in the level of maturity of that kid? And then my second part is some of the kids that have gone through there that, maybe you identified them that, hey, this kid does not, he just wants to get through high school. He does not want to go on to college. Have you had some that went through the program and said, I want to go on and get a degree and take this to another level? Have you had those cases yet?
I definitely think Dennis could talk to like individual experiences and individual instances where like it's an extreme success story, just like you mentioned Kai earlier. If we were to go back 10 years ago, I would agree that the academic tracked kid would diverge from the career technical education kid, and there would be some identifying characteristics of each. However, right now, by having it on site and putting the focus on our career technical education, we see those individuals running together because over 90% of our kids aren't just getting an academic track. Our valedictorian got a technical honors diploma. Yeah. So because we're on site,
he can weld and do chemistry.
They don't have to sacrifice taking physics. They can still take physics, but they can also get their CDL. It's no longer, I remember this is a long time ago. I graduated high school in 1996, and I remember being a freshman sitting down, and they told us just straight out, this percentage of you won't graduate. This percentage of you aren't going to college. This percentage of you are. You need to make a choice now. Prosser will be here in a month. Look into what you might want to do if you're not one of these kids that are going to go to college. And that's not the way we talk to kids these days. Wow. We tell them like, it's all here for you. It's a buffet. Let's take what you can while you're here. It's all free. We offer over 100 credits, college credits. Over half of those are career and technical education credits, but they still apply to your degree if you were to go to Purdue or IU. Sure. So, we got academic dual credits with colleges, but we also got these career technical education credits with colleges. And so a kid could go to Vincennes. We're working actually right now to be able to get to the point to be able to offer an associate's degree from our high school through Ivy Tech. We're pretty close. The number of credits that we're able to offer are very, very close. And so I guess my point in saying that is you don't have to force a kid as a freshman or sophomore to make that choice. They can do both things. And then at that pivotal time, have something to fall back on or have a choice to make. My own son, I said, you want to go to Indiana University. You want to do this. I said, but that CDL could last forever. It'd be great summer work, and it'd be excellent opportunity if plan A doesn't pan out as plan A. Most of us are on plan D right now in our lives. So, now individuals
as a Purdue grad, I hope he reconsiders.
Yeah.
Other than that,
it's a business major situation. So you got to go to the Kelly school. But, it's a situation where now anyone who's not getting both the academic and the career technical education, there's probably some limiting factor for them. And so for them, they need a special path to get to a graduation. For us, our goal is to get 100% graduation. When I was in school, they just flat out told you, there's 15% of you that aren't going to graduate. That's a hard thing to hear when you're, I was sitting there thinking,
and Sal made it. There's
a success story for you. There you go. Now, individuals, I'm sure, Dennis could have countless, like this individual I witnessed
that maturity level. You know,
Yeah, and putting them in the work situations. We were talking about this. They had a group of sophomores and some things that he was trying to have them do because there's a lot of individual projects going on right now. Some of them meeting that accountability and what the expectation is of Dennis, and some of them not. And as frustrating as the not meeting the expectation is, there's a huge valuable lesson to be had on that day when you get pulled aside and you get dressed down about what you failed to do and what you were expected to do. And so the beauty of that is they can learn it now when they're 15, not falling on their face when they're 20.
Yeah, I've taken some pretty good chewings in my day. Some of them totally my fault. Some of them you just sit there and you eat it like, well, I'm not the one at fault for this, but I'm going to do it. So it is kind of, I have, like, as a teacher, I try to make myself kind of make that point sometimes, but sometimes it's not really a big deal, like something that they mess up, and I make it a big deal because, you know, we don't have a lot of like real catastrophic things happen and stuff like that. But I'm like, yes, you have to wear your safety glasses every day, every time you walk in the shop. And yes, I'm that shop teacher guy that's always on them for that kind of stuff, like safety. And I love it when they try to argue with me about, well, I wasn't doing anything. I'm like, well, you're in the shop and he's doing something over there and it could fly over and hit you in the eye. And then you have to be that final destination person with them sometimes. But yeah, success stories, you know, I've had several kids and like he talked about, that's my biggest brag for our CTE program is that the kids don't have to leave. We got 47-minute classes. They can be in engineering one period and then go to, you know, biology or chemistry or something else the next and take these AP classes that they wouldn't be able to take if they had to leave school to go to another, you know, like a prosser or something like that. But, you know, I have conversations with kids all the time. I try to stay in contact with them, you know, kind of get a hold of them, you know, at least in the summertime, be like, hey, what are you doing now? A kid that I was worried, I pretty much had to talk him into sticking it out and graduating. I talked to him last year. He's been graduated for like 3 years now. He's making like $75,000, $80,000 a year as an operator. You know, he went to operators union. He ended up doing that. And,
Nice.
and you know, it was
life changing.
He was, you know, he puffed his chest up and I'm like, you should feel good about that,
Yeah.
man. Like, you know, and he did it. It wasn't something that, you know, someone coached him through it or held his hand. And that's some of the lessons that we learn here is, you know, if you want to be successful, nobody's going to come knock on your door and hand you a bag full of success. You're going to have to work for it. And you're going to have to go grind every single day. You're going to have to show up and you're going to have to be a decent person, do all those soft skills, but you're going to have to hone in on some actual, some skills, and you're going to find some knowledge that's going to help you get there. So
Do you have some of the alumni or graduates of your program come back and talk to the kids?
yes, absolutely. You know, I had a kid that he actually went to Purdue Polytechnic down in New Albany, and he did that because of we did a pumpkin chunking contest down there with Purdue. We actually won it 2 years in a row, and he just kind of fell in love with that school. He went and got an electrical engineering technician degree, Backwoods.
Yeah.
You know, and they're both doing really good, and they both love to talk. So Griffin, he's come back and talked to our kids and stuff like that.
Yeah, they would have never considered that.
Yeah.
Without that experience.
I know that was a unique experience there that we did. So through my Project Lead the Way classes, the engineering stuff, we got kind of hooked up with them. One of the professors down there, Joe Dews, was one of my mentor teachers doing the principles of engineering. So got to talking to him, and he's like invited us to this pumpkin chunking contest, and it was pretty fun. So
Made a giant trebuchet.
yes,
Like the Romans would use.
yes, yeah.
Catapult those pumpkins hundreds of yards.
Honestly,
Pretty
I really
impressive.
want to set it up at like, you know, halftime of a football game and throw a pumpkin through the uprights. Like we might have to make that happen.
Field goals.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah. One thing that's been very helpful to schools within the state of Indiana, you're able to take non-traditional teacher pathways. Like Dennis and most of the people in our career technical education, there's something called a workplace specialist license. And with a workplace specialist license, you can get a teaching license in the state of Indiana if you have enough hours within that industry. And then you have to go through some coursework that talks about general basic instructional techniques and things like that. But they're able to take someone with some expertise based off of the amount of time they've worked within an industry, license them to pass that information on, because getting a traditionally licensed teacher to do something like what Dennis does would be nearly impossible.
Yeah.
So it gives us the flexibility to get these people in front of our kids that do have a wealth of knowledge and they have the time within the industry. And so they got connections like Dennis did, which was very helpful to the school, but more so helpful to the student. You know, that real world experience. Some of my best teachers, I went straight into education. So it is what it is. I knew what I wanted to do. But when you got that other experience of life, you can see it, how it impacts the students. You know, it gives you a little clout too. When a guy shows up and says, "Oh yeah, this guy used to work circles around us." You know, I saw him, you know, busting and getting shingles up on a roof, you know, when he was your age. You know, listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about. He's been through it. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but you know, a person's experience does lend you to respect them a little more, you know?
Absolutely.
And so to say like, hey, this guy's been through it. He knows what he's talking about. I'm going to listen a little harder, a little longer. Just like if you got a football coach that, you know, was the legacy icon of your school, right? A person comes back and becomes your football coach, and you knew that he had a great career and he went on to college and played and had a great career there. The same thing applies to this. Kids respect the action, you know, just being, I don't have my doctorate, but you know, just being a doctor in front of your name, kids don't care about that. They want to see it in action. You know, the for them, it's always the proof is in the pudding. It's like, what have you done? What can you do? What are you doing today? You know, they need that to gain trust in you. And having these, the staff that we have that have these varied experiences have been extremely beneficial. Our individual that teaches our health careers, so he's been a registered nurse, you know, and then, you know, our agriculture teacher didn't go through the ag ed program at Purdue. She actually was an ag business and worked in a whole nother field for a decade before she came back in. Those things are very valuable. Our diesel services guy had his own shop for decades, and he's retired, and he just wants to pass on all his information. That's really to see those relationships build is really exciting.
That's really cool. That's and now you're here doing a podcast. You know, you've got a classroom going on right now. There's probably a sub in there, and they're probably doing all the things that Sal did when they had a sub.
Oh my gosh!
So, you know, and they're probably going to watch this. So is there any names you need to call out and correct them right now? I don't know if you want to say.
They know who they are. I took their phone today already, so he doesn't have his phone today.
They know who they are.
They know who they are. No, they usually do pretty good. I've got a pretty good sub that he's like my main sub. Like they don't get some random person in my classroom. So he's actually in my classroom throughout the day and stuff like that. And then the kids listen to him. So
So one of the things we did is like, you know, within a school system, you have general subs like in the elementary school or not subs, but aides, teachers' aides. We did a couple of years ago and went to the school board and said, hey, it would be nice to have a teaching assistant that's just for career technical education. Because these folks do need to have meetings with other people outside industry and other things. And rather than just sending in whichever sub you can get to answer the phone that morning, if we have an aide that we can move around from place to place, they have knowledge because they've been studying in the ag class.
Keep the project going.
Yeah, this person's been in my class and been in the shop. He knows the rules of the shop. And if someone's not following the safety protocols, they're out. You know, and that's been very helpful. And he's taken that responsibility on. He's done a great job with it. And it just lends the system to run more smoothly because we can just pop him in and plug and go, or he works alongside our teachers if we don't need a substitute. You know, most days everyone's there and he's working beside Dennis.
Yeah.
Or he's working beside the ag teacher.
Yeah, I have like 23 kids in one construction class. So for me to be having projects going on, I mean, it's really nice to have him there to, you know, hey, you got this half the room, I got this half the room, and we both kind of bounce around and stuff. So
I would think the kids would get into the project to the point where, I mean, how do you get them to leave and go to the next class or go home at night?
It's actually hard, honestly. Like we just did Santa's workshop and made up a bunch of like Christmas decor and sold them at this little thing we had at the school. And it was funny because the kids they want to keep working. I'm like, the bell rang, you got to go. And I'm like, I haven't cleaned up yet. I'm like, well, I told you 5 minutes ago go to clean up. Like, and they just want to keep working and keep working. I was like, just write me a pass. I'm like,
You don't get that in the English room.
It is nice. It is
2 more sentences. Let me get 2 more in.
It is really nice with our renovation. We were able to also purchase a lot of new updated equipment, but we still have our old traditional wood shop equipment. It was, I don't know, it's probably original from 1963, but very high quality stuff.
Yeah, that stuff won't die.
And then we added a lot of things. So we're creating well-rounded individuals in there because they do woodworking things, but he's also talking about a plasma cutter, which is larger than this table, and you can do large cutouts in metal with Kimball. That really, we kind of went that direction because manufacturing was a big need in our area. But when we talked to our industry partner, Kimball's right there in Salem, and they went all metal furniture, office furniture. At one point, they did away with their wood furniture unit and they went to all metal. And so we did a bunch of field trips there, saw a lot of the things that they had, talked about what we needed in our own shops, and we got things similar to that. And so they come once or twice a year, drop off thousands of pounds of sheet metal, angle iron, stuff, material that our kids can just go back there. We got a big welding station with multiple welders. Very, very nice stuff. And so they're able to do these things that are more applicable to modern day manufacturing or industry, but also they understand how to use a lathe. They understand how to use a table saw. So there's a lot of valuable knowledge being passed on and experience.
And some of these kids are better welders than me too. I mean, they're laying dimes now. Like they're proud of it too. They're like taking pictures of it and like, did this today and like just proud of their work.
That's an awesome skill.
So yeah.
I've got a daughter. My daughter Morgan's got a metal fabrication business in St. Louis. She might be hitting you guys up if anybody wants to transition to the St. Louis area.
Yeah.
She'll take your welders.
Yeah. They're it's a skill for sure.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, we covered a lot of ground here today.
Oh yeah, we could have kept going.
I know we can. It is, but I think it's important for Premier Ag as employers, but also, the partnership of working with a school system that is doing work to prepare the students, for a career-ready job. And that's pretty neat. And then
in our marketplace.
In our marketplace, that's right. And we're building that hub plant in Campbellsburg. And so hopefully we can keep a partnership going and help where it's needed. And I can come over and run some equipment if you need me to.
Absolutely.
I always think of it just like being a parent. You always want your children to do better than you did. That's the way I feel about every class that graduates there. I want them, like the biggest sales pitch for our CDL program was the first time we graduated a kid with a CDL, and he came back the next year and he was driving a new pickup truck.
That's pretty good.
You should have seen the boys line up to want to take the CDL class, and it's a nicer truck than mine. I wasn't a jealous dad. I said, I am so proud of you. You're going to do better than us. You always want the next generation just do a little bit better. And so I feel like we are doing a good service for our community by producing employable kids in fields that they can actually make a living and advance themselves and their families.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to stop as any. So, Mr. Nance, Mr. Tankersley, thank you for joining us today and talking about career and technical education and some of the things that you've got going on. And Jeff, I think that's it for this podcast session.
Sounds great. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you all. We appreciate it. That's another episode of The High Ground powered by Premier Ag.